Krishna dear devotees, come to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivarada Gopijana Vallabha Radharani Yashodanandana Prajajananjana Yashodanandana Prajajananjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya Nashta Praishva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 7, The Signs of God, Chapter 6, Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. Read text 3. Sukhamindriyakam daitya dehayogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivatyata dukam ayatnataha. Sukham indriyakam daitya dehayogena dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivatyata dukam ayatnataha. Would anyone like to try to read the verse?
Sukham Aindriyakam Daitya Deha Yogena Dehinam Yatra Labhyate Daivad Yatadukam Ayatnataha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else?
Sukham Aindriyakam Daitya Deha Yogena Dehinam Sarvatra Labhyate Daivad Yata Dukam Ayatnataha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? Sukham, happiness. Indriyakam, with reference to the material senses. Daityaha, all my dear friends born into demoniac families. Deha yogena, because of possessing a particular type of material body. Dehinam, of all embodied living entities, sarvatra, everywhere, in any form of life. Labhyate is obtainable. Daivat, by superior arrangement. Yata, just as. Dukam, unhappiness. Ayatnataha, without endeavor. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Purport. In the material world, in any form of life, there's some so-called happiness and so-called distress. No one invites distress in order to suffer, but still it comes. Similarly, even if we do not endeavor to obtain the advantages of material happiness, we shall obtain them automatically. This happiness and distress are obtainable in any form of life without endeavor. Thus, there is no need to waste time and energy fighting against distress or working very hard for happiness. Our only happiness in the human form of life should be to revive our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus become qualified to return home back to Godhead. Material happiness and distress come as soon as we accept a material body, regardless of what form. We cannot avoid such happiness and distress under any circumstances. The best use of human life, therefore, lies in reviving our relationship with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Sukhamaindriyakam daitya deha yogina dehinam sarvatra labhyate daivat yatha dukham ayatnataha. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Om Jnanatimandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitanina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shumate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharana Vishesha Shunavari Paschatya Shataya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Prahlad Maharaj, as we discussed last week, the tree of material existence is completely cut down. In fact, it's completely absent in the core of his heart. We discussed that the tree of this material existence, two types of fruits grow on it, happiness and distress. And Krishna advised Arjuna, as we discussed last week, that to cut down this tree of material existence within the core of one's heart, one needs to do it with detachment. So the axe of detachment is built from cultivation of transcendental knowledge. Leading up to this point, Prahlad Maharaj instructing his friends at the Gurukul, his father accused them, accused Prahlad Maharaj, maybe leading up, or maybe he's going to accuse them later on, or he's going to see Prahlad Maharaj as the axe that cuts down the Daityas, his entire family. So an axe, and it's an appropriate example, is the handle of an axe is created, that cuts down a tree, is created from the same tree. So similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, being born a Daitya or a demon, Vishnu is using him to cut down the Daityas. So they're going to perceive this to be Vishnu's military strategy. But actually, Prahlad Maharaj's master is because he's the benefactor of all living entities, including the daityas, the enemies of the demigods. In fact, he's actually giving them benefit. He's giving Hiranyakashipu and all his subjects the benefit of association with a pure devotee. And so Prahlad Maharaj is going to begin with these friends in basically expanding this benevolence of Lord Vishnu, Narayan, the shelter of all living entities. It's going to unfold through Prahlad Maharaj, beginning with his friends. And Prahlad Maharaj, he says that this benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord, it cannot wait. You now is the time. When you hear it, the first time you hear it, that happiness is perceived with reference to sense objects by contact with the body, then you have to start cultivating transcendental knowledge. And we heard in the previous verses is that this education, the supreme education, there's two aspects to it, right? Is that, okay, you cut down, Krishna, he explains in the 15th chapter, that you cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment by doing two things, right? With you cut it down with detachment, and then you also simultaneously cultivate knowledge of the Supreme Lord. So, well, that's the actual objective, is that if you don't stop material, if you don't stop tasting or hankering after the taste of this material fruit of happiness on this tree of material existence, if you don't stop hankering after it, you're going to waste a lot of time. Human life is actually very short. It doesn't matter what age you live in. It's actually very short. Because this tree of material existence is so strongly rooted in the core of the living entity's heart. In fact, since time immemorial. So when you take birth, from the time of Paranodakshai Vishnu glances, that tree is already there in the heart. In fact, Kapila Dev explains it as the cosmic intelligence, Hiranmaya. So the Mahatattva, creation of the Mahatattva is the Hiranmaya, the cosmic intelligence. And this contains the destination of all the living entities. So even before the living entities manifest in the universe, the tree in its subtle state is already there. And the destination is your karma, the type of body that you're going to get. So even if you're able to live for 100,000 years, still the human life is still short because there's just way too many distractions brought about by this tree. So Prahlad Maharaj is going to say that you need to actually just cultivate, understand the source of this tree. So it's when you're cutting down a tree, excuse me, you cut it down close to its roots. Now, what you can see, you can't see the roots, but you can see the trunk. So if you've ever chainsawed before, you'll cut it down, you'll create your bevel, and you'll cut like close to the trunk, the base of the tree. And then afterwards, then you might get a truck and pull out the stump, right? So basically, similarly, when it comes to cutting down this tree, you have to search out the root. And this is what Prabhupada explains in text 3 to 4 of chapter 15. Right? Let's see. He explains, it is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in this material world since the root is upwards. The extension of the real tree is at the other end. When entangled with the material expanses of the tree, one cannot see how far the root tree extends, nor can one see the beginning of this tree. yet one has to find out the cause. I'm the son of my father is the son of such and such a person, etc. By searching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Finally, in this way, one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is at the end of research work. One has to search out that origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who have knowledge of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from the false reflection of reality. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. So the hankering for happiness, Ananda Maya Vyasat, is a constituent part of it's the nature of the living entity, right? And because the material world is created as a false reflection of the spiritual world, this reflection is there in the core of the heart. And so that's why it doesn't matter how long you have, whether you're living 100,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000 years, even 100 years, it doesn't matter what age you're born in, the hankering just never stops. So that's why Prahlad Maharaj is saying in these verses to his friends that you actually have to search out the root of your hankering. Don't try to enjoy it, because by trying to enjoy it, you get distracted. You don't, you get, you delight in happiness that has a beginning and an end, and the cycle just keeps going. So you just are on a treadmill. You just keep going. But you never search out, why am I actually this way? Why am I, what is the root of happiness that has no beginning and no end? Excuse me. Sorry about that. So basically, the understanding happiness and distress comes from searching out the root of the root, like where these fruits are actually coming from, happiness and distress, the taste of these fruits, right? So basically, what Prahlad Maharaj is saying to his friends is that even though you're accepting happiness and distress automatically, and then also focusing on the key objective of tracing out Krishna or Vishnu, the source of this tree, um, we're not becoming oblivious to the important subject matter of happiness and distress. This is the point, right? So by focusing your life on cultivating knowledge of the Supreme Lord, it's not that you are ignoring your nature of wanting happiness and distress. In fact, when you actually understand it, when you do this, when you base your life on cultivating knowledge about this root of this tree, which is Krishna, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, that he is actually the root, the origin of everything. In fact, you come to the level of Brahman and you taste the happiness that has no beginning and no end, and there's actually no distress. Okay. So yes, so this is the beginning of Prahlad Maharaj's teachings, and he is he's inviting, in fact, by teaching this to his friends, he's wanting them to actually also have this vision of reality, of the happiness, the material happiness and distress that we are being taught, which is um, and we are being taught that the four fruits, the four types of fruits, so there's four flavors. Two flavors: happiness and distress, and then four types of fruits: dharma, artha, karma, and moksha. Karma, sorry. Sorry, there's a fire alarm. Both closer. Okay. Can you hear me, or is the beeping in the background noisy? There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Just give me a few minutes. All right. Okay. Can everybody hear me now?
I hear you.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. So basically, by this philosophy, right, of seeing that happiness and distress will come of its own accord and let me focus my entire life on tracing out the root of these flavors, happiness and or happiness, the flavor that I'm hankering for, material happiness, or at least happiness. Um, I'm not really concerned whether it's material or not. Um, I just want happiness, right? So then Prahlad Maharaj says, well, trace out its root. Where does it actually come from, this flavor that you're hankering after? And so what we're being taught by our teachers, Shanda and Namarka, that we need to become expert in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Um, and then we'll actually get the best happiness. No, you won't actually. Um, that happiness that you'll get from tasting these types of fruits, um, it has a beginning and it has an end. And so you'll just be caught in the cycle of the production, the growth, the dwindling, and the vanishing of this type of happiness. So the cause has within it the nature of the effect. And because these types of fruits are material, you as a spirit soul will just stay caught up in the cycle. Um, and so your happiness will come to an end. Right? So don't be focused on this. Don't be absorbed in this. Rather trace out the root, right? So we're going to try to understand for us as practitioners is that if you read the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you will see exactly why Prahlad Maharaj. This is further explanation why Prahlad Maharaj is saying you need to actually renounce the hankering of happiness and just accept that it will automatically come, and rather focus all your attention of understanding how Krishna is the root of everything. So before we begin, we Last week, we saw that Arjuna had asked Krishna, what is the symptoms of one who's transcendental to the three modes? So this is the beginning of becoming transcendental to it, is that seeing happiness and distress as just automatically coming and not really being focused to adjust it, to try to make more happiness, because by making more of it, you in fact also increase your distress as well. And Krishna, he said that one who is transcendental to the three modes has specific qualities. He is unwavering and undisturbed through all the reactions of the material qualities. Right? He remains neutral and transcendental. He knows that the modes alone are active, and he's situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress. So this is Prahlad Maharaj. He's actually teaching his friends how to become this way. Prahlad, sees a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye. He's equal toward the desirable and undesirable. He is steady, situated equally well in praise, and blame, honor, and dishonor. So he's going to give all these gifts of renunciation as well. We can, by really focusing on what he's saying, we can similarly get these gifts as well. So Krishna in the 18th chapter, so we're going to try to read the 18th chapter, just the translations. And we're going to try to see it through the eyes of Prahlad Maharaj. His life up to this point, what's happened, and what he's currently teaching to his friends. Chapter 18, the conclusion, perfection of renunciation. Arjuna said, Almighty Armed One, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyasa, O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation. So just note that difference, right? The sannyas, very subtle. Sannyas is giving up of the activities that are based on material desire. And then tyaga is giving up the results of all activities. Okay, Krishna continues. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, they must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So Prahlad Maharaj, he is not saying to his friends that they should engage in tyaga. So give up, or let me say, and give up all activities. It's in line with what Krishna is saying, is that there's certain types of activities that actually need to continue. And acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are part of tracing out the root of happiness, the root of all existence. So in this case, the demons, they are after happiness, or at least this is what they've been taught. And so he's going to actually engage them in acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance. And these, yes, aren't to be given up because they purify. So Krishna continues. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty or samakrita. That is my final opinion. So Prahlad Maharaj is also telling, don't worry about your happiness and distress. It'll just come of its own accord. And this is Krishna And one actually needs to do it without attachment. So this is part of cutting down the root of the tree of material existence in the heart, as you spoke earlier, through the weapon of detachment. So you do it, but without any expectation of results. So this is how you work, and this is how you actually, the spirit in which you perform devotional service, action in Krishna consciousness. Krishna continues. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. Or, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, this renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. The intelligent renouncer situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, and he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. So here, Krishna is describing that. So we are building our eggs, right? Yes, we are building our eggs. So this is one very important aspect of this construction of the handle, is to actually be a renouncing the mode of goodness. So Krishna is saying that you perform your duty because it ought to be done. So just as we are following, we are followers of Srila Prabhupada through the will of our individual initiating spiritual masters. And the beginning of sadhana bhakti is that you just viewed the definition of sadhana is that because the spiritual master said so. So we are fortunate in the beginning coming to Gita Nagari, and because the spiritual master said, yes, I would like you to come to Gita Nagari. And so we did it. Right? So devotees who get an opportunity, this community, in fact, a lot of us, we came to Gita Nagari because the spiritual master said so. And now we've just held on to the feet, lotus feet of Radha Damodar as our Ishta Deva, as our worshipable deities. But because, as part of tracing out the root of this tree of material existence, because the representative of Krishna just said, just do it. So you did it, and now you're actually getting the fruits of it. So the other aspect of being an intelligent renouncer is that you're neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, and you have no doubts about work. So with entering a new varna, like many of us, we had no agricultural experience. And so, yes, there might be discomfort to the body, having to, not being used to like working early and being active in the early morning hours. Sometimes, body is under prepared. It's not well prepared for the duties of milking, and then when we like would have the marathons or at least the sprints of haymaking, to stay up late at night. So not being hateful of uh, the discomforts to the body that you actually have to do because you are engaged in a new varna. This is the award of the spiritual masters. So even though you don't understand, as a sadhaka, you don't understand and you're not doing it because, hey, I want to become an intelligent pronouncer. Just simply by doing it because the scripture master said so, you actually get this quality. So this is the auspiciousness of following the orders of the scripture master. And then Krishna is saying that it's impossible for an embodied living being to give up all activities. But he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. So, so you're going to give it up, and Krishna at the end of this chapter is going to explain how to actually, the consciousness with which you actually should work. So by doing your work without any expectation, and then you give it up as an offering to the Lord by always thinking about the Lord, then you won't be preoccupied with happiness and distress. So devotees on this call, they're always busy in Radha Damodar service, and this busyness is that you're not, the happiness and distress you can see, you can become an observer to it, and it just automatically comes. You're just focused on coming to Bhagavatam, dressing Radha Damodar, going about your duties, your daily services to Radha Damodar. Then the devotees here in State College, they do book distribution, Harinam, under the leadership of Yashadev Prabhu. So these activities of devotional service and just serving Prabhupada's body in the form of ISKCON, it just creates it makes it easy for you to actually become an intelligent pronouncer. And part of this intelligent pronunciation is it's part and parcel. So you don't have to make a separate endeavor, but you just have to keep reading. So you cultivate knowledge of the glories of the Lord, and automatically, because you're busy in devotional service, you're not preoccupied by the comings and goings of happiness and distress, and therefore, it would be nice to maybe have another car. It would be nice maybe to have an extra $1,000. But the devotee, he's busy. He or she is busy in devotional service. And so even if they can't get it, they might make an effort, but it's not going to derail them from their chanting. So you're not going to deprioritize quality time with Krishna in the morning because you're trying to increase your happiness through dharma and artha, or more karma, like that. So Krishna, he continues here. So that was understanding the qualities or becoming an intelligent pronouncer. Now Krishna is going to explain, maybe let's go to the end because we've got only a few minutes. So then Krishna is going to explain the different types of determination, the modes of goodness, happiness, and ignorance, motivation, knowledge, how it's actually all affected by the three modes, and then the quality, the constituents of action, and that actually the super soul is a predominant factor of this action. And so by focusing on the super soul and cultivating knowledge, understanding how the super soul is actually the root of everything, then it's very easy to just go about your life, just focusing on service to the source of the super soul, which is Krishna. And by continuing in the spirit, then you actually come to what Prahlad Maharaj is giving, and what the current state of consciousness that he's in is in the level of Brahman. Right? So here, Krishna, he explains, this is text 40. There's no being existing either here or among the demigods in the high planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, the chastisement of the enemy. So then Krishna goes on to explain those different qualities. By following the qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's own nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his own nature, son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. So this is an important point, is that you can actually become, you don't have to change your varna, right? You don't even have to change your core nature. So the Daityas don't have to change their nature first. They have to become demigods, and then they can actually begin to trace out the root or focus their life on tracing out the root. And so this is Krishna's mercy to actually all living entities. So when Krishna he says that Suhrit Sarva Bhutanam, that he's actually the friend of all living entities, it's this aspect of transcendental knowledge that really makes Krishna's friendship just really unique. Is that these friends of Prahlad Maharaj, they don't have to change their position to become perfect. And perfection is coming to that state of Brahman, of tasting this happiness that has no beginning and no end. Right? So the demons, the Daityas, they're being taught how to get a supreme position of happiness, just as their deity in their society, who now is Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj, he attained the supreme state of satisfaction and happiness. But Prahlad Maharaj is actually going to demonstrate that no, the person that you're worshipping as God, because Hiranyakashipu effectively was advertising himself as God. He was performing all the functions of nature through his acquired mystic power. He was doing everything, and so practically speaking, for them, and he was the emperor of the entire universe. And so for them, yes, we had found the root of all existence, and that is Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu. But Prahlad is going to show, he's going to expose his father in front of everybody that no, he's actually not that satisfied. He's got this burning desire to avenge the death of his brother, and he wants to do so by killing Vishnu. So that hankering of wanting to kill Vishnu is the proof that actually he's not satisfied. Right? So Prahlad, he's going to tell his friends, no, you just need to understand Vishnu and cultivate knowledge of how he's all pervading, how he's actually the friend, he's as our friend, and your ability to be able to understand this, your ability to be able to see happiness and distress as just automatic. I can't modulate it, I can't change its quantity in my life. You're going to see it. Your ability to be able to see this is going to be proof that yes, and then you're going to actually become perfect, right? So even in our own lives as well, is that we weren't born Brahmins, you know, we weren't born of devotee parents, and yet we're able to perform devotional service on this high level of accepting Radha Damodar as our Lord, of renouncing whatever we had going for us. Right? So becoming a renouncer in the mode of goodness. The perfection of human life is actually to attain to the state of sannyas, to renounce all activities based on desire and to focus on that. And Prabhupada famously, he wrote, just forgetting which chapter, might be chapter 5 in the Bhagavad Gita, that his disciples are in the renounced order of life. Why? Because according to Krishna's definition, they have given up material activities based on desire. And they are mad after Krishna. They're just focusing on the root of all existence now. So when your life is just focused on understanding the wonderful qualities of Krishna and working in the consciousness of always thinking about Krishna, offering your obeisances to Krishna, then you're actually perfect despite the circumstances that you were born in. So now Krishna is going to advise what consciousness we should actually perform work or even our duties in. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection, it's the perfection of Brahman, can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, controls his body, mind, and power speech, who's always in trance and is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. One who can understand me as I am, the supreme personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. Only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my direction reaches the eternal, imperishable abode by my grace. In all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature. You will have to be engaged in warfare. Under illusion, you are not declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your nature, you will act all the same, son of Kunti. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine. The sign of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Yes. So this is it. This is the consciousness with we should act and perform devotional service. In fact, by acting in this way, we will be using actively as a daily matter of practice, using the mode of goodness as launch pad into the Shuddha Sattva. The Shuddha Sattva, which is this stage of Brahman. We will always be peaceful. So Krishna, he gives us how to actually do it in text 51 to 53. So living in a secluded place like Spruce Hill, eating, controlling our eating, controlling our body, mind, and power speech. Very important power speech in the association of devotees. Controlling what you say, being very careful, and performing the austerity of speech that Krishna describes in the 17th chapter. So acceptance of material things and free from false proprietorship. These are all the ways in which we cultivate, we be an intelligent renouncer, maintain our position of becoming a renouncer in the mode of goodness. And in this way, we will attain, making it much easier for us to actually attain pure devotional service. So yes, let us pray today to take to heart the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj by becoming an intelligent renouncer, seeing happiness and distress as just automatically coming because we already have a material body. The body is an attractor of its own set and predestined set of happiness and distress, and just focus, keep refocusing our life on cultivating consciousness of how Krishna is actually Aham Sarvasya Prabhupada. He's actually the source of everything. Whatever I want, Krishna is actually the source of that. And seeing how Krishna actually manifests throughout all these activities and delighting in viewing that as a spectator by reading more about that quality. And then in this way, actually, we will renounce this this happiness that has a beginning and has an end. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, reflections, or contentions? Okay, so everybody has understood how to maintain their position of being an intelligent renouncer. Jai. Yashadev Prabhu, he says in the chat, I'm ready to be Krishna conscious. Okay, Tilapalika.
I was wondering whenever you're reading in the 18th chapter about one who doesn't hate auspicious or inauspicious work, and then you were speaking about like giving the example of that, I think, is like doing some occupation outside of your varna or something that you might be uncomfortable with as a devotee. But then later in the 18th chapter, you were reading that verse about how one shouldn't give up, the prescribed work. It's better to do it, faultily. So I was just wondering if you can explain that auspicious, not hating auspicious versus inauspicious work as a devotee, how that applies to devotees, or if all devotional service is auspicious.
So there's renunciation in the mode of goodness, and then when you follow the directions of Krishna's instructions, he's representative, or in this case, Arjuna is following Krishna's directions directly, then that's actually transcendental to the mode of goodness. So that's the difference. So when the spiritual master, the example I was citing is many of us coming to Gita Nagari and relocating and living, that's transcendental. So you get the qualities of being an intelligent renouncer in the mode of goodness automatically. And then, but then if you can't, follow, or if you don't get the good fortune of being directed explicitly to do a certain work, then just do the work that's according to your nature. So that's what Krishna is saying. So it's twofold. And Krishna, he's telling Arjuna that, look, you're actually going to fight. This is the point. You can't, even though you have said at the beginning of this dialogue that better we give up fighting because it's going to cause bloodshed, destroys family tradition, because the men will be destroyed. It's better to, you're going to fight. So because you're going to fight, fight in the mode of goodness. And then on a high level, then Krishna is saying, well, anyway, just give up. What is it? Yeah, sorry. Just Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mami Kamsharanam Vraja. Anyway, just give up all these conceptions, right? Even of what is auspicious, what is inauspicious, just give it up and just follow my directions, and you'll be free from the reactions. So that's higher. I don't know if I hope that clarifies. Okay, it clarifies it. Any other thoughts? Okay. Thank you, dear devotees. Yes, seems like everybody is going to be intelligent pronouncers, just as Prahlad Maharaj is instructing his friends and he's instructing all of us. Just really to focus the time we have left in this human form of life to see how Krishna is the root of all that we desire and try to see how he manifests it in his pastimes. So today we don't have time to go through such a meditation, but it's an important meditation to establish. So you can just think this week, what did I actually want? Or what have I really been looking for? Have I been thinking about getting a bigger space, another car? You might be thinking about some material convenience, right? Some material desire that you have and you've been thinking about. And obviously, you're thinking about it as it relates to your devotional service. Now see it, cultivate how, now find the specific pastime where that thing that you're looking for is manifest in Krishna's pastimes. And then meditate on that. And then see how your desire responds, how the attachment, how you actually respond to how you feel about that particular object. So that's, I guess, today's homework. Contra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gokhamanandi.